Right now, in a handful of the richest, most technically advanced race shops in America, Hendrick Joe Gibbs Racing Penske, there are engineers sitting in front of 3 monitors absolutely gutted. They've got hundreds of millions of dollars in wind tunnels. They've got PhDs. They've got the best oval racers on the planet, and they cannot beat one bloke from Auckland with a laptop. I'm not exaggerating for a thumbnail here. In 2025, Shane van Gisbergen won Mexico City by 16.5 seconds, 16.5 in a cup car. He led 97 of 110 laps at Sonoma, the most anyone has ever led there. He's won 6 of the last 7 road course races on the schedule. And here's the part that's driving the mental. NASCAR runs an open telemetry system called SMT. Every rival team can download SVG's data, his brake trace, his throttle, his steering. It's all right there. They can see exactly what he's doing. They still can't do it. That's the story today, the forbidden data that's got the whole American garage in a spin, and the one thing on that laptop file they will never, ever be able to copy. Let's decode it. To understand why the Yanks are stuck, you've got to go back to where SVG learned his trade. And this is where the Aussie and Kiwi fans watching are going to sit up, because this is our racing that broke NASCAR. The supercars that Shane raced for over a decade weren't easy cars. They were heavy, around 1,400 kilos, brutal, tail-happy beasts, and critically, they ran what's called a spool diff, a locked rear end, both back wheels turning at the exact same speed all the time, no mercy. Now think about what that does when you turn into a corner with a locked diff. The car does not want to rotate. It wants to push straight on, understeer, run wide into the fence. So how did the Aussie boys make those pigs turn? They used the brakes and the drivetrain to force rotation, massive rear brake bias, feathering the clutch, managing rear lock with the throttle and the pedal at the same time, which brings us to the technique that broke the internet in 2023. When SVG won on debut in Chicago, Trackhouse had bolted a camera in the footwell, and America watched, jaws on the floor, as this bloke braked with his right foot while blipping the throttle, the classic heel and toe in a car where everyone else brakes with their left. Here's SVG explaining it himself, and I love this quote. "I used to do it because you had to in a V8 supercar, and they'd have a locked diff, and you'd run so much rear brake to make it turn, you could control the rear lock in the brake zone. Then as you got to the brake zone, the clutch would be out as you turned in, and it would help the car to turn." Now wait, because here's the bit that's actually mad. SVG himself says the technique is not the advantage. He literally told Dale Earnhardt Jr., "People overthink it. I don't think it's a big advantage. The next-gen NASCAR car has an open diff. It doesn't need the heel and toe trickery the way a supercar did it." So the whole American media obsession, what Shane calls their foot fetish, is chasing the wrong thing. The footwork is the symptom. It's not the disease. So what is actually making him 3% faster than everyone else? That's next. Let's get into the tele. This is the deep dive grab a cuppa. When you overlay a standard cup road racer's brake trace against SVG's, you don't see one giant difference. That's what fools people. You see 100 tiny ones, and they add up to what I call the 3% gap, the invisible margin that turns an 11-second beating into a "how is this even possible?" Difference 1, the initial bite. Watch a typical driver, and they slam the brake, a big vertical spike to maximum pressure. Then they hold it, then they release, bang, hold off. And now watch SVG, visual green trace, smooth curved shape. His brake pressure comes up fast, but then immediately starts bleeding off in this beautiful smooth curve. That's trail braking, carrying brake pressure deep into the corner, releasing it progressively as he adds steering. Why does that matter? Because that trailing brake keeps weight loaded on the front tires right up to the apex. Loaded front tires mean grip at the front, which means the nose bites and the car rotates. He's using the brake pedal as a steering device. The car pivots for free while the others are wrestling the wheel. And here's where it gets crazier. His own teammate, 19-year-old Connor Zilisch, the only driver who's genuinely threatening him, sat behind SVG at Watkins Glen and described exactly what he saw. Listen to this. You never see him slipping tires, and there's times where out of turn 6 into turn 7, everybody else is getting to wide open throttle, and he's not even getting to wide open. He doesn't push the car beyond what it needs to be pushed. Read that again. His rivals are flat out pinned to the firewall and losing time. SVG is at maybe 90% throttle and gaining. That's the throttle application secret. A normal driver stabs the throttle wide open and the rear tires spin, scrub, and overheat. SVG rolls the throttle on in this progressive ramp, feeding the power in exactly as fast as the tire can take it, never a fraction more. No wheel spin, no slip, no heat, which is why Zilish said the scariest thing of all, when he wants to go, he can go, because 40 laps in, everyone else has cooked their tires to the canvas and Shane's are fresh. He's been saving them the whole race while leading. That's the 3% compounding lap after lap into an ocean. Quick one before the scandal, and this is the good stuff. If you're into the nitty-gritty of racing, that the mainstream US media completely misses the actual telemetry, the real reasons blokes win. Join the 97 Nation. We're decoding what actually happens under the hood while everyone else is arguing in the comments. Smash subscribe, ding the bell, and help us keep the Aussie invasion alive. It genuinely takes 2 seconds, and it's the only reason we can keep making these, right? Back to it, because top teams have now done something a bit desperate. Here's the copy-paste scandal. Because that SMT data is open, the biggest teams in NASCAR have straight up tried to reprogram their million-dollar drivers to be Shane van Gisbergen. According to the broadcast, Team Penske's Joey Logano, a 2-time Cup champion, started the Watkins Glen weekend deliberately right foot braking, trying to copy the technique. He bailed out during practice, couldn't do it. His teammate Austin Cindric was so committed to learning it, he flew to Australia and ran a supercars wild card in Adelaide just to practice the craft in the environment that created it. That's how serious this is. American Cup drivers are crossing the planet to learn our technique. And here's the kicker. Even SVG's own teammate, Ross Chastain, same cars, same engineers, same data, sitting right next to him, can't do it. His words, "My feet are on the wrong pedals when I do it his way. I can do it intentionally for like a corner or 3, and then I get to the next corner and I go back to my way. It's just muscle memory." Denny Hamlin reckons no young driver coming up will even bother trying to learn it, so the teams are stuck. They've got the file, they've got the map, they've copied the footwork, the brake bias, the throttle shape, and it's still not working, which means there's one thing on that data they physically cannot download. Here it is. The one thing, feel. Everything we've talked about, the trail braking curve, the 90% throttle, the tire saving, none of it is written down as a number SVG is copying. He's not reading a target on a dash. He's feeling it through the seat of his pants, through his fingertips on the wheel, through his right foot. He can sense the exact millisecond a rear tire is about to give up grip, and he backs off a whisker before it does. Every corner, every lap for 2 hours straight. That's what the data can't hold. The SMT file shows you the result of the feel, the smooth green line. It cannot give you the 20 years of a locked diff supercar trying to spit him into the wall at Bathurst that taught him that feel. You can copy the answer. You can't copy the calibrated nervous system that produced it. That's why the richest engineers in America are stuck. You can't buy it. You can't download it. And you certainly can't learn it at 33 with your feet on the wrong pedals. The Yanks brought their laptops to a gunfight. Shane brought a lifetime of managing chaos and a right foot that thinks for itself. Now, I want the technical heads in here to settle this in the comments. Here's the question. If NASCAR banned the open telemetry system tomorrow and every team went dark, no SMT, no data sharing, does SVG's advantage get bigger because the field loses its cheat sheet, or smaller because he loses his own data feedback loop? Drop your answer below.